Hello, West Michigan. Welcome back. You are watching Alive and Well. I'm Linda Bachma. This is Bree Dobbins, and Brianne and I have been talking about living donors, and she has this wonderful story and that she lived through donating her kidney to a friend, and she wants to start a nonprofit organization called
Living Life After Giving Life.
Living Life After Giving Life. And she's in the initial stages of that. If you or anyone you know would be interested in contributing to Living Life and Giving Life, supporting Brianne, or you have a story, or you've been through this situation, or maybe will be going through this situation, give me a call at 231-672-3215, and I will put you in touch and connect you with Brianne, so we can do something with that. We'd like to see this, really get going. I think it's a wonderful program. Let's talk about, we've talked about the emotional, the expectations, the treatment afterwards, and how everything then focuses to the recipient versus the donor who feels like, wow, okay, first there was all this attention on me, and now nobody's paying any attention. To the medical, we need to talk a little bit about what happens after long term. What kind of changes?
I was warned to watch my protein intake after surgery. My surgeon basically told me not to eat 2 steaks at once, which isn't a problem for me really. But and my sodium intake, because too much sodium is obviously bad for your kidneys and bad for your blood pressure, which is interesting because I didn't think much of it then. But 4 years ago, one of my top favorite foods was actually potato chips, as unhealthy as that is. And I've noticed within the last year or so that I actually don't like them anymore.
You just don't like them. You've lost the taste for potato chips.
It's anything high in salt. I just don't want it, which was weird to me. It's not even something I have to be conscious of anymore to avoid it. It's just something I don't want. It's something that my body just doesn't like.
Which questions? Is it because you intentionally avoided it for so long that you just suddenly lost the taste for it? Or is there something physically connected with the kidney being gone that changes your desire for that salt? Because I crave salt. Most people, everybody I know is into chocolate. They're always raiding the drawers in my office for chocolate. And I would rather get a bag of potato chips.
And I was the same way for a long time.
Potato chips.
Popcorn, potato chips.
Craving.
Even pickles, dill pickles.
Oh, really? Yeah, French fries. That's the only thing I put salt on. I don't add salt to food, but French fries you have to have salt on. So, yeah, that's interesting that you've lost the... And what about any complications? Is there anything you have to be concerned with as you age?
High blood pressure. I need to keep an eye on my blood pressure, which I'm relatively lucky. There's not a lot of high blood pressure that runs in my family. I've always actually ran really low, which is nice. Other than that, I do my blood work every year to test my kidney function and make sure that's okay. I watch for any signs of kidney failure, retaining water, things like that. I avoid any sort of NSAIDs, so aspirin, ibuprofen, things like that, because they're filtered through the kidney, whereas acetaminophen is filtered through the liver. So I stick to Tylenol and acetaminophen instead of the NSAIDs.
Well, that's interesting too, and I suppose it all depends on what you're donating. If you're donating, you can donate as a living donor a portion of your liver because there's regrowth. So they would probably have to stay away from the acetaminophen and look at ibuprofen. So it's all where it filters in your body. I know bone marrow is very typical, and I don't think that's quite as invasive when they do the bone marrow transplants now.
From what I hear, that's just a really big needle.
A really big needle, and not nearly as invasive, particularly for the donor, and they're usually out and about in the next day or two. So that's more common. But you want a support group that will support any type of donor.
Correct.
A living donor and how they, any of their needs, from their physical, mental, emotional.
It's still a
financial.
Big decision and an amazing thing that someone does that I think they should be supported for.
Okay. Yeah, I agree. And we did talk a little bit about, you were quite young when you did this. Yes. And of course your parents, as I would be concerned if my children decided to do this, one thing for me to do with my kids, I would have the same concerns your parents did. At that time, you didn't think having children was on your radar, but now that sounds like it may have changed a little.
It may be a possibility.
Yeah. So that's another thing. You have to be careful. If you become pregnant, you just have to watch things a little more closely. But Interesting what you say about just don't eat 2 steaks at once. None of us should eat 2 steaks at once.
Probably true.
And we all should watch our salt intake, and those are all just basic health things.
Yeah,
so.
it's a general healthy lifestyle,
Sure.
general healthy choices.
Right. Now, do you think that you are more aware of healthy choices, being that you have donated a kidney? Do you think about it more?
I think I should.
But in other words, as time goes on, it's kind of like everything else.
Yeah, it kind of goes to the back of my mind. It's just another, I'm supposed to exercise every day too, and that's not always in the forefront of my mind either.
Yeah.
So I'm used to it at this point. It's the newness is worn off, really.
Right.
But it is, a lot of times it comes up, and
Sure.
sometimes it surprises me, and sometimes it just kind of makes sense, but...
Yeah, but you still feel passionate about the fact that others should give.
Definitely.
And what it is the gift of life. It really is. And it's so important.
And it was, like I said, it was an amazing thing for him, but it really changed my life too. It was really an amazing thing for me.
Right. Life-changing for you. And so you and Jeremy are still in touch. Now, some people that give may never meet their donor. Is that true? You might not ever meet the donor, and that's okay. You're still saving a life, you know. But those considerations and everything that you go through, it's, you really have to put a lot of thought into it. And I guess I would have been real concerned at your age. Are you really going into this with your eyes open? Do you really know what you're doing here? What if you do have children and your child needs a kidney and you don't have it to give? That would be something that would cross my mind.
I just figure I have to have karma on my side at this point.
Yeah, that's right.
If something happens to a family member or me in the future, I just have to assume God and karma or have my back on that one.
And I think that's a great attitude to have, because we could all live our lives with the what ifs. What if what if you have a baby and that baby needs a kidney? I mean, the likelihood isn't there, and if it were to happen, the likelihood that because you gave, somebody else will give, and sometimes biological family members aren't even appropriate donors. They're not even a match. So.
Most of Jeremy's family couldn't even be tested because the reason his kidneys failed was a genetic disorder. So his family members weren't even eligible, which was interesting.
Okay. Well, we're going to come back and kind of revamp and take a look at everything we've talked about, so stay with us, and we'll be back in just a minute.